I was in the country for about a week. I was in Rhode Island and I just got back. Brought some dogwood branches in flower on the train from the garden. It's so lovely being away, and it's so nice being back. While I was in Rhode Island, I went to an estate sale with my friend, which was amazing because it was full of all the sorts of things that I love. Early American antiques, chairs, tables, linens, brass candlesticks, oil lamps, and I was on the lookout for some quilts. I have a little setup in the barn. I have this folding lounge chair that I'm setting up for naps, and I thought, oh, it would be really nice to have a quilt out there in the barn. Something that's not precious, something that's not expensive, but something that's nice. And an estate sale or a yard sale or a flea market is the perfect place to look for something like that. I like to find something beautiful and old, but something that's like that I know if it gets damaged, I'm not going to feel terrible about it because I didn't spend a lot of money on it. And at the estate sale, I found 2 quilts. Each of them were $40. They are, I'll show them to you. The first quilt I got was this one. And this is like, it's mostly red, blue, and white or cream on the front. And then the back is just a single colored, like a natural colored cotton muslin. And the quilting is patterned on this one. And everything is hand stitched. Like all the pieces are hand stitched together. And the quilting, I don't know if the pieces are hand stitched together, are they? No. The pieces are machine stitched together. And the quilting is done by hand. So this was my first choice. And then I was looking at, there were about 8 quilts, and I saw this other one, which was also really nice. So I got it as well. This green and pink one. This has a patterned back, like a calico on the back. Patterned back. Both of these, this one has a little fraying around the edge. The other one is in perfect condition, and when I got them and took them back to my friend's place, I really inspected them closely. And this one is so nice that I feel like I don't want to use it in the barn. I'll probably keep it for my apartment here in New York, and the other one I'll use in the barn. Now, these they didn't feel or smell very dirty, but they smelled kind of musty, and when I'm looking at the cloth, I feel like because of their age, there's discoloration. So something that I have done before, which works really, really well for vintage or antique textiles, is using something called retro clean. And I first was introduced to this in a vintage store in Toronto. I was looking at some cloth things, and they were really white, and I was talking to the owner about it. She said that she had used this on it. She told me about it, and that was like 10 years ago. And since then, every now and then when I find something that just feels like it can be revived or brightened, like even on the label here, you can see the before and after, and it really does. In most situations, that's what it does. It won't take out, like this is not a cure-all for everything. It won't take out certain stains. If there's like rust stains, which often I'll find on light colored cloth, especially if there were pins in them and the pins have stayed in over 100 years, the pins have corroded, they've left rust stains in the cloth. This doesn't take that out, but it says, Retro Clean is the gentle solution for safely removing tough stains, including yellow and brown age stains. That's mainly what I'm tackling. From all washable vintage fabrics, laces, linens, quilts, tablecloths, clothing, wedding dresses, etc. It removes stains related to water and smoke damage, mold, coffee, wine, blood, nicotine, babies, pets, and perspiration. It will leave your fabric with renewed color and vitality. And then it gives you directions. It tells you to check for color fastness. This is where there is a danger zone. If the cloth is very fragile, then the wear that can be put on the cloth through the process of washing can just make it disintegrate. So you have to be really careful when you're dealing with antique or vintage textiles, and you kind of need to know that there's always a risk, or you need to consult with an expert on how to treat certain things. For me, I use this on things that I consider low stakes. Like, as I said, I bought these quilts fairly inexpensively. I'm willing to take risks with these. I think it should be totally fine. But I thought I would just share the process, because if it works, it's very lovely to see. These, I do anticipate, like on this one, the light colored patches, I think they're going to just pop. Like, I think that what appears to be a sort of tan buff color is actually going to come out white. And I just love this stuff. Like, I love this stuff for this kind of thing. Tablecloths, linens, napkins, linen tablecloths and linen napkins. You'll often find them in sets in a flea market stall or vintage store or whatever. Very often they are laundered, and they've been brought back to life, like they've been laundered by the person that's selling them. Every now and then, though, you'll find something that is white on the surface, and then where the fold line is, because it's been sitting on a shelf for a very long time, there's some discoloration. So this stuff works on that. This is very good for white or cream colored things. The only issue is like dyes running. So I'm going to get started. The process is to wash the item first, like with gentle detergent. I'm going to do this in the bathtub. And then after it's been washed once, you create the solution with this. So for every gallon of water, you add 3 to 4 tablespoons of Retro Clean into warm water, and you dissolve that. You dissolve these crystals. They're sort of like a salt. And then you put the item in and you leave it in for 48 hours, so 2 days. Ideally, if you can, you keep the solution warm, and that helps to activate or to effectively lift up the stains over the course of 2 days. The way that they advise you do this is to put it in a clear plastic bin with a lid, and to do it outside in the sun. So you create your solution, you put the textiles in there, you put them out in the sun, and the sun will keep the solution warm while there's light. These quilts are fairly big, and I don't have a bin that's large enough to accommodate both of them. So I brought these from Rhode Island back to New York, and I'm just going to do this in my bathtub. Let's see what happens. First is just plain washing. Soap, some laundry detergent, water. It's the first step. Okay, so it has been 24 hours. The quilts have been sitting in the solution for 24 hours, and I want to show you the color of the water. This is what has come out of the quilts after their initial wash. This is what the Retro Clean solution has taken out of the quilts. I should also tell you that the technique that I've used to submerge the quilts, well, the bottom quilt, the red and blue one, is the one that is kind of the most important to me. So I have put that in first, and I've put the green quilt on top of it to weigh it down. The package says to have the cloth submerged under the solution, but to do that, you need weights, and I don't want to put anything on these quilts. Like you can use a plate, you can use a dish with some weights on it, like whatever you can find that can go into the water to hold this down. That's ideal, but to me, really, I'm focusing mainly on this quilt. So I put that in first, and I put this one on top, and that ensures that the important quilt is submerged under the solution. When the cloth goes into the water, when both of these quilts are soaking wet, they're very heavy. And because they are fairly delicate, like there are some areas that are fraying, they're so much more susceptible to tearing and being damaged from the weight of the cloth under stress. So don't, like if you're doing something like this and you're working with delicate fabric, don't pick it up like this and hold it up in the air as you would like a Persian rug, because you're really putting a lot of stress on the cloth, on the textile, with that weight pulling it down, and things can rip and tear. So I'm being, like when I'm moving it around, even when I washed and I rinsed it, I just sort of pushed it to the edge of the tub like this, all the way to the edge. I drained out the water, and I gently squeezed both quilts while they were in the tub to drain off the excess water. I didn't lift them up in the air. I didn't wring them out suspended in the air, because I don't want to damage them. And I can see already that the light parts of the quilt, even these parts, like the pink and the green and the yellow especially, they already look so much brighter. I'm really excited about this one. I can't wait to see what it looks like. But be patient. It should be 48 hours. So I am going to put this back in here and let it sit for another 24 hours. Okay, it has been 48 hours since I put the quilts in the Retro Clean solution, and this is the color of the water. Not a huge difference from yesterday, 24 hours after putting them into the solution, but it looks like tobacco juice. It is time to drain the water out. And this is what I do with the quilts. Because they're so heavy, I just gather them over to this side of the tub. There is a slant to the tub, so the water's just going to drain away. And I'm going to leave it like this for like half an hour, just to let the water drain out on its own without putting any stress on the quilt. And then I'll squeeze out the excess water as gently as possible. Wow. That's definitely stuff that came out of both these quilts. well, the job is done. The quilt's hanging up for its final bit of drying. This was a lot of work. This was a lot of work mainly because I don't have the proper space and setup to be laundering large textiles like this in a safe and careful way. But I always make do. And the reason why it was so much work is because I'm doing it in the bathtub, and then after washing the thing, the next really big challenge is to dry the thing. And to dry something like this quilt properly, you have to be careful, because when it's so wet and full of water, you can't really wring it out. Like I was really looking carefully at the cloth, and there were so many areas that seemed very delicate, like the cloth is old and worn, and I felt like if I wrung it out while it was soaking wet, I would rip the cloth. I could hear the strain on the cloth when I was lifting it up, like a sort of squeaky sound, which is not a good sound. It's like this, if you'll hear sometimes things tearing, and that's an awful sound. So in order to avoid that, I squeezed out as much of the final rinse water as I could, and then to kind of carefully get out the rest of the water, I set up drop cloths on the floor in this room. I put towels on top of the drop cloth. I gently put the quilt in a single layer over that sort of bedding, and then I rolled it up and I pressed down. And that is the method that I would use for hand washing a woolen sweater. That's how you wring out the last bit of water in the garment without twisting it. And it worked. It got out a lot of the water, and then I set up a sort of a rig on the fire escape where I draped another drop cloth over the fire escape and lay the quilt out so that there was some air on it. And it's been a hot day, so it did a pretty good job of drying it. I pulled it in before it was completely dry, and then now I have it hanging up behind me on my bed frame. While this one is on here, I have the second, the green quilt, out on the fire escape to get its initial drying process started. This is the sort of thing that I felt I had to do for a quilt that I would like to sleep under, because it smelled musty, it didn't feel very clean, and this whole process of washing it and then putting it through the retro clean really changed the whole look of the quilts. This one, I noticed the change is more subtle. I thought that those cream colored areas were going to turn white, and they didn't, but I do notice that they are a lot brighter, and even the gray cloth on there is a lot brighter. The backing of this quilt is not white, it's sort of a natural colored cotton, and that looks a lot cleaner now. The big difference has been on the green and pink quilt. Those colors have just popped. The greens, the pinks, the yellows, they're so bright, and the backing fabric, which was this printed pink colored cloth, it was sort of brown before, and now it looks very different. It looks totally pink. So this is what I do. This is what I do with vintage textiles. As I said at the very beginning of this video, there should be a disclaimer. Be careful. Don't think that you can just use this method on anything and it's going to be fine. I noticed dye was running from this quilt, especially in the final rinse water. I could see that as I gently squeezed the rinse water out, it was slightly pink, which was an indication that that red dye was running, which means that even in the retro clean solution, dye was coming out into it. So you got to be conscious of that possibility and discern whether or not it's worth the risk. There you have it, my vintage quilt cleaning method. I'm so happy with this quilt. I'm going to use it and love it.